This is going to walk you through how to use a spreadsheet to do some of the calculations we'll do in our electricity unit. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to notice that this spreadsheet has three separate sections in it. We're going to have a section for the Ohm's law calculations, a section for power calculations, and a section for energy usage calculations. Each section has three columns in it, and it matters that there's three columns there. Let me show you why. Let's start with Ohm's law. I pasted a copy of the triangle below here. Remember, the way that this triangle works is that if we want to find one quantity, for example, voltage, we cover up the quantity we're trying to find, and what's left behind is the formula. So if we want to find voltage, we can multiply current, that's I, by resistance, that's R. So let's see how we would set that up in a spreadsheet. The first thing that I'm going to need is a place where I enter the current. In the first column, I'm going to put a label that describes what's going to be in the box next to it. In the next box here, this is where I'm going to actually type in the number that represents the current in this situation. To help me keep track of which cells I can type data in, I'm going to color those cells all a particular color. I'm going to use this nice light purple. So by shading this light purple, this tells you this is a box that you're going to type a number in. And in the last column, I'm going to put the units. Current has units of amps. Next, I'll have resistance. And again, I'm going to put in the number for resistance, so that's another shaded box there. The units for resistance is ohms. Then I'm going to calculate the voltage. I'm not going to shade this because this box is going to contain a formula. The units for voltage are volts, so I'm going to put those units in. Now let me enter the formula here for voltage. If we look back to the triangle, voltage is current times resistance. So in this cell for voltage, I'm going to hit the equal sign to start a new formula. And then I want to use the quantity in the box for current. So I click on there. Notice that it fills that with B3. That's column B, row 3. Times, that's the asterisk. It's right above 8 on your keyboard. Resistance. So B3, that's where I put current, times B4. That's where I put resistance. When I'm done, I simply hit enter. Right now, my sheet is set to display the formula itself. I left that display turned on so you can see the formulas. In your sheet, it'll probably show 0 there because you don't have any numbers in. Let's just double check to make sure this is working. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the formula view off for a minute. So see here where it says all formulas. Right now I have those displaying. I'm going to turn that off. So suppose the current through a particular circuit is 10 amps and the resistance through that circuit is 5 ohms. Automatically the sheet has calculated that the voltage is 50 volts. Now remember that this Ohm's law triangle can create three separate formulas for you. If you want to know current, that's voltage divided by resistance. So the next chunk of formulas here, you would start out with voltage and resistance. Those are the two things you would know. And you would find current. And again, you would put your units off to the side so that we know what units we're dealing with in this. And these first two, in this case, now we're going to enter voltage and resistance, and it's going to calculate current for us. If I look down here, the formula for current is voltage divided by resistance. So what goes in this cell is voltage, that's what's in the top box there, divided by resistance. Right now it says error div by 0. There's no number in the resistance box, so this formula is trying to divide by 0. But as soon as I enter in some numbers for voltage and resistance, now I find what the current is. You're going to enter the third formula down here, and you're actually going to enter all three of these, but I've shown you how to do the first two. You're going to create from scratch the remaining formula for resistance. It's going to be voltage divided by current. We'll do the same thing here for the formulas for power calculations. Power, I don't want power calculations there, I just want power, is what we get when we multiply voltage by current. So voltage and current. The units for power are watts. The units for voltage are volts, and the units for current are amps. In this formula, I'm going to have the voltage and the current be things that I plug in. Now notice in this one, I put the calculated quantity at the top and the two that I enter below. Doesn't really matter what order you put them in. This is part of the reason I suggest color coding the cells that you're going to enter the data in so that there's no question about which ones you type and which ones are calculated. So again, in the triangle below, power is equal to voltage times current. So here's the cell that contains voltage, and here's the cell that contains current. And you're going to continue on and make the other formulas here. So you'll have a formula for voltage using this triangle and a formula for current using this triangle. The last thing that we're going to work on then is energy usage calculations. This is answering the question, how much energy does it take to power a particular appliance? The units that we're going to use for electrical energy are kilowatt hours. Remember, kilowatt hours includes both the kilowatts, that's a measure of the power of the appliance, and hours, that's a measure of how long we use it. The kilowatts is simply what we get when we take the wattage of the appliance and turn it from watts into kilowatts. To do that, we have to divide by 1,000. 1,000 watts is 1 kilowatt. For this box, what I would recommend is, first off, let's make some notes in here about what appliance we're looking at. So let's have a cell called name of appliance. And then over here is a spot where someone is going to type in, like, what appliance exactly are we looking at? There's no real units for that because it's going to say things there like toaster or hairdryer or electric oven. Right. Next thing we're going to need is we're going to need the wattage of the appliance. This is a measure of how much power the appliance draws while it's on. And again, this is something that we're going to type in this formula. Maybe it's a 1500 watt microwave. This does have units of watts. Now down below, we're going to have a section where we do some calculations. This little heading here is just telling me that this is where my calculations go. So the first calculation that I'm going to do is I'm going to turn watts to kilowatts. Notice that I type in here what exactly it is that this calculation is doing. So to turn watts into kilowatts, it says down here, I take the wattage of the appliance and divide it by 1,000. So this formula, I'm going to take the wattage of the appliance that I typed in this pink box up here and divide it by 1,000. That 1,000 never changes. That's not a variable quantity. Turning watts to kilowatts is always dividing by 1,000. So I can just type that 1,000 in. Next, I need to turn minutes into hours. So up here, I may record how long appliance is used in minutes. So for example, a microwave, if you're heating up your lunch, you might use it for 3 minutes. And oftentimes we know how long something is used in minutes. But in my calculation to find kilowatt hours, I need to turn that minutes into hours. So to turn minutes into hours, you take the number of minutes, and we've got a box here for that, and divide it by 60. Turning minutes into hours is always dividing by 60, so there's that calculation. And then finally, we need to calculate kilowatt hours used. The calculation for kilowatt hours used is simply the kilowatts of the appliance, that's what we have here, times the number of hours it's used. That's what we have here. So let's say that the name of the appliance is a microwave, and not a microwave, there we go. And it is a fairly powerful microwave. This is a 2,500 watt microwave that I heat my lunch for 3 minutes. And now I can see that uses 2.5 kilowatts for 0.05 hours, or a total of 0.125 kilowatt hours. Your job is to create this worksheet with all of the formulas filled in. When you're done, you're going to share this and turn it in to Schoology. Up here in the right, there's a corner that says Share. If you click on that, one of the things it'll give you is an option to get a shareable link. You do want the shareable link. You're going to copy that link there, and then you're going to turn that in Schoology.